It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a weekly podcast where we talk about everything that's great. Like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh, yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris.
My name is Mike.
And this week, we've got your Captain America Brave New World review.
That's true.
We are one of thousands of people reviewing this movie this weekend, so I feel like we're going to get lost in there, but that's fine. We're going to recap the trailers from last week's Super Bowl, as we like to do. Trailers, commercials. I also put some commercials down as well that I remembered, and I tried to do this off memory, Mike. I didn't look them up, so I'm gonna hope to see if you remember any as well. Twisted Metal Season 2 looks authentic to the games, and I'm thoroughly surprised they actually did something like that, Mike, and that's why I brought it up, and more.
Yeah, I'm glad we made the right choice last week, where we didn't hop back on the horn to talk about Super Bowl trailers. Because there's a few, but definitely not enough to prop up an entire second episode of the podcast in a week.
If Jurassic Park and Fantastic Four had waited, I would probably disagree with you. But since the two big ones were Wednesday and Thursday of the week before, absolutely just kind of took the wind out of the sails, if you will, for the rest of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was probably a smart call because I don't know, at least in my feeds, for the first couple days after the Super Bowl, it was just nothing but Kendrick Lamar memes, and I was living for them. They were hilarious. It was great. I went back and rewatched the halftime show on YouTube a couple times. So I think that's honestly what took it away from me. I mean, we're all living in the future now, so we all know the game was incredibly boring, but exciting if you were an Eagles fan, but just. Or if you really hated the Chiefs, I suppose it was a really good game.
I have no strong feelings either way, but I love a good play, especially whenever there's interceptions and you sack the quarterback, because that's my favorite two things to do in NFL blitz, Mike. So those are my favorite moves. So I don't care which team's doing it, as long as exciting gameplay things that you don't expect show up. So that's what I like for that.
Yeah. So that whole media event is over. You know, we can kind of get back to regularly scheduled silliness on this show. And the very first silliness, we finally have both tried the trifecta of new Q1 2025 sodas, which is the Dr. Pepper Blackberry, the Orange Cream Coca-Cola, and the Pepsi Wild Cherry and Cream. Chris just literally tried the Orange Coke on Mike before we hit record. I found it like 2 days ago randomly at a Target. I thought it was going to take forever to find it, but my assumption is that Coke has a much better distribution team and plan than these other cans, because I was hunting down these other cans like my life depended on it, like weeks and weeks and weeks, but we finally tried them all.
Yes.
So Chris, what is your just initial power ranking? If you had to rank the three, how are they ranking?
Yeah, so Pepsi Wild Cherry and Cream at the top, Dr. Pepper Blackberry at the bottom, and Coke Orange Cream right in the middle. That is hands down the first sip from all three of those told me how I was going to feel. And I know you're going to be different, and we've talked about why you're different on some of these, but those are my top three, or those are the three in order. Pepsi number one, Coke second, Dr. Pepper bottom. Where are you at?
Yeah, we're close. I think Pepsi Wild Cherries and Cream is the top, but honestly, it's because it's the safest. I mean, this is a flavor that kind of already really exists in some fashion, especially if you have if you visited any sort of freestyle machine. I know Pepsi has their own, but even you can make a cherry vanilla Coke very easily. So cola with vanilla and cherry is not new.
So the cream in this, they say orange cream, cherries and cream. The cream is vanilla. It's vanilla flavoring in these drinks. So it is literally half, to me, and I think I told you this, it's half Pepsi Wild Cherry and half vanilla Pepsi in one drink. And for some reason that just works with Pepsi, and I think that's why I would rank it number one as well with you.
Yeah, it's great. I even tried it in a 20-ounce bottle, And I think cans are far superior to bottles, but it was even great there. The Dr. Pepper Blackberry I'd put in second place. They're kind of weighing on me a little bit. I had an entire 12-pack, and I was like, oh, these are good. I can drink these. But then now I'm like, I have like maybe 6 cans left. I'm like, ugh. This kind of seems like work. Like I'm drinking one right now just to get through it.
Yeah.
But then I would put the orange Coke at the bottom. I bought a 12-pack because it was the first way I found it. Sometimes I only ever see like cans in my area. I never get the bottles, so like, I have to get it now. Yeah. And I cracked open the first can. And I was like, I do not need 11 more of these. So, but my wife likes them, so I think she will work through those Coke Zero orange creams.
To me, and this is what it comes out. And I saw someone else post this last night. Is that the Dr. Pepper Blackberry, fake blackberry flavor to me tastes like cough syrup. And Mike, you have an affinity for that flavor, that tone, and I do not. Like the second I had that Dr. Pepper Blackberry, I looked at my phone like we've made a huge mistake buying these. Like I was the other way with your Coke Orange cream. I was like, no, I'm good. I don't think I need to have any more of these ever again, unless I find something to mix them with. But on the flip side, Coke to me always goes great with like a citrusy thing, like a Coke like a lime Coke, right? I think you were showing me like lime coconut Diet Coke this week as well.
Oh yeah. I went to like the flavored water enhancer things. What are they called? Like Mios or something like that.
Yeah.
And Target had its own store brand. It was coconut lime. And we've talked about these dirty sodas that the Mormons invented in Utah like 1,000 times on the show. But their kind of default like flavor that they invented, the first one was like a coconut lime, and then I think they also put like creamer in it too. So I was like, hey, we're like halfway to a dirty soda. So the only thing is like these things add like sweetness, so you have to be like really gentle with it when you add it to a Diet Coke.
Yeah, and I think just citrusy things, orange, lime, probably I think lemon Coke was pretty good too. They just seem to cut through the Coke sweetness to me. And I like that. So for me, Coke Orange Cream has the heads up. But obviously, these are all personal preference, right? Everyone can have their own flavor. So if anyone else has had these, let us know. I think this is where we maybe we already shouted out, but the I'm going to add on here the Monster Blue Hawaiian. Was it the Ultra Blue Hawaiian can we talked about last week as well? I had another one yesterday.
That was great. I love that.
Yeah, great. Be better and warm weather. After the second one, I'm like, yep, I wish it wasn't raining and snowing here in Louisville, but absolutely, these are great. We're in the season of flavor, Mike. But it's all the new flavors are dropping, so I'm excited for this as we go through it. If you're ready, let's jump into the Super Bowl. Which none of these drinks had Super Bowl commercials, if I remember correctly. I don't remember a Dr. Pepper Blackberry one. Coke, I'm pretty sure had one. I don't know about Pepsi, but anyway, the Super Bowl last week. Commercials and trailers. We're going to go to commercials because we don't have a lot about talk about the commercials. We'll talk about trailers. So the commercials that stood out to me, Mike, and I texted you this right away. The Instacart Cinematic Universe. Absolutely love this because you get all of the weird mascots. What was it? Was Puppy Monkey Baby was in this one. Jolly Green Giant. All the mascots from all the food things that Instacart can deliver to you right there on this trailer. It was fun to see them all kind of come together for this. I would watch this before I'd watch Space Jam 2 again, with all the Warner Brother properties sitting around the little basketball court for that.
This was a weird commercial for me because you see all these kind of like brand mascots, and I was like, is this a weird like Procter and Gamble or Johnson and Johnson commercial? And then usually when a big corporation like that makes a commercial, it's because I don't know, they killed a bunch of people in a factory, so now they have to like generate good PR by rolling out all the mascots. But weirdly, I was relieved when I saw it was an Instacart commercial. I was like, oh, okay, so at least it's not from the corporate overlords.
Yeah, there was like Chester Cheetah was one of them. I know that the Kool-Aid Man busted out of a window, Energizer Bunny, I think, as well. So to me, that one was fun because it kept me guessing. Like you said, I was like, who is this for? Nobody owns all these things, do they? They probably do. And then lastly, the other one I have in here, I just have two, is that Seal's Baja Blast Seal commercial, A Kiss from a Lime, which they've turned into a vinyl single record as well, Mike, that you can buy for your record player. This was just funny. Number one, I have an affinity for Kiss from a Rose because of the Batman Forever movie, because that's the song they play in that movie. And Seal, the ability for him to not take himself seriously as a Seal. It was just even
great. But since you brought the commercial up, now I have to bring out my Apple box. I have to stand and deliver and just throw my fist up at a cloud and wiggle it, because this was not a Super Bowl commercial. I know that they will tell you it was. I know they will say internally when they were like project managing it, this is our big game commercial. Then why did I see this commercial 4 days before the Super Bowl?
Oh, you saw it early?
Ad?
Oh,
yeah, it was.
I didn't see it early.
I saw so many of these commercials during the Super Bowl were all fed to me through YouTube days beforehand.
Wow.
It got to the point where like you can kind of tell when a commercial starts if it has a little extra like zest to it, a little bit more cinematic quality right off the bat, especially when you're nearing the Super Bowl. Like, oh, this is a Super Bowl trailer, and they're just feeding it to me early. I'm gonna like skip it or like look away or something. Like the Doritos commercial with like the UFO like sucking the Doritos up, saw that days early. So I know it feels like so weird to like complain about commercials, because I'd rather live in a world where they didn't exist. But like there used to be like a lot of fun and pomp and circumstance to the Super Bowl commercials. Now it's like all meaningless. It's like, why am I even watching the Super Bowl? Like I can get all these commercials like days beforehand.
Well, I had no preconceived notion on any of these at all. So I feel sorry for you, because for me the magic's still there. I don't know how I avoid them. Maybe I pay for YouTube Premium. Maybe is that it? Is that why I'm not seeing them? Maybe
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So I had a great, and the fact that they actually, Mountain Dew and Taco Bell are like the two brands. I'm like, they're gonna do a weird commercial and have something like a prop that you can get with it. And I'm glad they put this little Kiss from a Lime single out on that. Now is there any other trailer commercials that ring out to you, Mike, that you were like, that's great, or that was really, really bad? I couldn't think of anything else.
I mean, that's probably not a great sign from the perspective of the amount of money it costs to air these commercials. That a week later, that's all we can remember is Puppy Monkey Baby shaking the rattle, and then a seal as Seal.
Yeah. And I will tell you the one thing about these commercials. I will also a lot of them are brand awareness. They're not announcing new products. I didn't feel anything. I think the one that kept me guessing the most, there was the OpenAI's Chat GPT commercial or whatever. I was like, there's a bunch of dots in here, but they're not changing my sentiment towards these brands at the end of the day. So I think that's important. But I will tell you, my least favorite thing to come out of the Super Bowl was the Superman spot. The little promo video, the Super Bowl cut clip with the Nathan Fillion's Green Lantern in that, and it was during the Puppy Bowl, and there was no real commercial for Superman, nothing new. It was just this, and I fucking hate this so much, Mike. I can't tell you how much I hate this. I mean, I'm even using strong language because, number one, it's a Superman movie, and they were like, don't worry about all the extra characters. We're going to focus on Superman. There was no Superman. It's just Nathan Fillion being smarmy in his bowl cut as Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, and I just hate it so much, Mike. How do you feel? As strongly as I do? Because it's bothering me.
I mean, I guess this is probably from the mind of James Gunn. He kind of is a weirdo at heart. I mean, I guess this is something. I mean, we weren't really hyped up for the Super Bowl. We kind of knew that Superman wasn't going to be making an appearance. So at least I don't feel like I was let down.
Well, no, they said they were going to do something during the Puppy Bowl. No, they said we're going to do a Superman thing during the Puppy Bowl, and this is what it was.
Well, I never was expecting a full trailer, because that's a waste of money to do it at the Puppy Bowl. I mean, they do it there
because they Warner Brothers owns it. They don't have to pay for it. That is why. Like, that is why they do it during the pub. They literally just like, oh, it's our airtime. We'll put whatever we want on it.
I mean, I got to assume that this bowl cut is referenced in the movie. Like, they got to be making fun of his hair. Because I mean, if they're making fun of it already, it's got to be a joke in the movie.
I need to look at real fast Warner Brothers movies 2025. Mickey 17, The Parenting Well, these are distributions. Working Man Minecraft movie is part of it. Final Destination, The Accountant 2, Sinners. I guess they have a bunch of movies this year, more than I thought. So I thought they'd have more, but did not care for that at all. Moving on to, we talked about this, knowing it was coming. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning trailer released. Starting, I think it's one of those trailers that I like how they open up the viewport a little bit, but it's a very silent trailer, right? It feels like the first one we watched several months ago. But like we always say, Tom Cruise, he's trying to kill himself with these stunts. Like every time he does a stunt, he's like, I'm going to do it myself. He's just trying to end himself. And I think this one is the airplane. They save it for the end, right? They always save his stunt for the end. It's the he's flying on the side of the airplane. That's actually him and not CGI, kind of along the way.
Yeah. The I feel like I recall seeing him hold on to a biplane like that, a prop plane early on in the franchise, but I could be wrong. I mean, the biggest problem with the Mission Impossible movies, they're not totally unlike the Fast and Furious movies where I can't tell any of them apart. I can remember different set pieces and occasionally a villain here or there, but after the second movie, it's all just one big amalgamation of like Tom Cruise like running as fast as he can and like high speed chases.
I would liken it maybe more to the Bourne movies, because I know the Bourne movies and I could pick out a couple scenes, but I couldn't tell you which one it was a part of, more than Fast and Furious, because at least Mission Impossible movies feel like they're trying to make a movie, and Fast and Furious movies feel like they're trying to make a parody. Or something awful. So I would liken it maybe more to the Bourne movies. But yeah, I know we know this is a sequel to the first one, which was Dead Reckoning, originally titled Dead Reckoning Part 1. This is supposed to be Part 2, but they've kind of gotten away from those Part 1 and Part 2 names recently. But I think this might be maybe the last Mission Impossible movie, Mike, before they reboot it with somebody new. And
reboot it or I don't know, spin it off. Like maybe they'll actually kill Ethan Hunt, or maybe they'll do like the final Batman Nolan film where we can't be entirely sure, if he's dead or not. That kind of maybe feels a little bit more thematic for the character,
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say much like the original the Jason Bourne franchise, they had Jeremy Renner in like the fourth or fifth one. And he was supposed to kind of take over the role of Mission Impossible, and I'm like, oh, he had so many roles lined up that never really came to fruition along the way. So, yeah, they could definitely hand it off, but I think they're going to bring back a lot of people from even Mission Impossible 1. They brought someone back. They brought a couple people back in the last movie, so I think they're trying to maybe, like you said, kind of wrap up this story, and then maybe if they move forward, it'll be new. But yeah, I think Mission Impossible movies, they're coming out faster than James Bond movies, Mike, and I enjoy watching them. So hopefully we get this coming out end of May this year along the way. Moving up, How to Train Your Dragon, the live action remake of the animated movie. I believe is this DreamWorks? Is it a DreamWorks movie? Yep. I think How to Train Your Dragon's good. I don't revisit it. I don't know if I've ever revisited it. They're doing a shot-for-shot live-action remake of the original movie, almost exactly, and I feel that's cool. But we've talked about this on the show. Like, if they don't take a swing, they don't make a change. Why live action it along the way?
Yeah, I kind of hate it. I hated this trailer in a way. Because it essentially just looks like somebody did like another render pass on the movie and made it look more realistic and took out all of the charm and character. And it also, like, I suppose I should wait to fully judge the visual design and the set decoration and the costuming until I get maybe a longer trailer or I sit with the movie. But what I've seen in the trailer looks like bad cosplay or just good cosplay, because cosplay just tries to replicate what is already on the screen. Mm-hmm. When you make something live action, I feel like the costuming should be elevated, right? We should be seeing more textures and like natural fibers, something to make it feel unlike a cartoon. Or even the hair, like they gave this dude like cartoon hair. Like, yeah, it looks exactly like Hiccup from the animated movie, but like that's a cartoon character. Like this is like a real human who's a Viking, and I know his character is, his archetype is supposed to be like, you know, against type of a Viking, and that's what makes him special. But like he doesn't even look like he lives in the same world with how he looks.
do you think his nose is that big in real life, or is that a prosthetic? Because that actor has a huge nose.
That's a good
for the hair
that's
stuff.
A good question.
Because
also like
yeah,
I think the biggest problem I have is what's the main dragon's name?
I just hit
Toothless?
the tip of my tongue. Toothless, yeah.
It looks almost down to like the pixel of what it looked.
It's a modern render, it's a modern render of the How to Train Your Dragon movie.
Yeah, it just looks like a next gen Toothless. I would have hoped that maybe they would have done a little bit more visual development. Like, I'm not saying drastically change the design, but give me a reason to go to the theater to see a live action. Like, there's no reason here.
Yeah, well, I also, I mean, you might be the audience one day. I don't have kids who watch How to Train Your Dragon 1, 2, and 3, but I think the shot for shot remakes are. They feel lazy. I think everything you're saying kind of agrees with that, right? Like they're not really doing anything different. They're not trying to elevate that. I don't mind how the dragons look. The dragons look cool. That's awesome. But everything else just feels just low effort, if you will, kind of along the way. And I wish maybe like, hey, we're going to redo How to Train Your Dragons live action. Maybe there's a twist that's coming and they're just showing us the stuff that looks the same. But I have a huge suspicion that this is going to be identical to the other one. And they even got oh my gosh, what's his name, Mr. 300 himself to do the live action version of his Viking that he voiced in the original movie.
Yeah, I can think of everything else but his name.
Yeah.
In South Park, he was fighting around the world.
No, that's Russell Crowe. It's not Russell Crowe.
It wasn't. I thought it was Russell Crowe.
No, it's the guy who was 300, the main guy in 300.
No, we'll just have to leave it up to the internet.
Someone's yelling at us. I'm gonna get text messages tomorrow about who this is. But you know, it just feels low
Gerard
effort.
Butler.
Gerard Butler. There it is.
It just came to me.
Yeah, so it feels low effort, and I'm not excited. Like, I don't want to watch it. It doesn't feel exciting. It doesn't feel different. It just feels like this. I know parents are gonna, kids are like, oh my god, I gotta see How to Train Your Dragon. We've seen the trailers. We have the toys. We've been living it for years. They're gonna go see it, and it'll probably do well. But as someone who, they have the animated version, they can still watch it, and they don't need a live action version next to it on when they're like trying to pick which one to watch, right? So, hopefully they do differences. And despite what you say, like, oh, Disney does live action remakes all the time. Yeah, but they change up a lot of that stuff, right? Like I feel like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs feels different. Dumbo was different. Alice in Wonderland was different. So I think there's opportunities to, zhuzh it up a little bit, if you will. All right, so the trailer I was most excited for, Mike, and the one I think that has like the most interesting things to talk about was the Thunderbolts, and they had only had like a little spot during the trailer, or during the Super Bowl, and they're like, all right, the full trailer is online, which they do. So we got the full trailer released online for the upcoming Marvel movie Thunderbolts. Now that Captain America is behind us, we can look forward to this. And it's, I don't know how to describe this, Mike. It's not dark, but this movie is very gray coded, like shadow coded, like when I was watching it, like the trailer. Does that feel accurate to you watching the trailer?
Yeah, well, yeah, I feel like we were a little bit more lighthearted that first teaser around. Now we're seeing people like obliterated into shadows, which is a very interesting visual effect. Like we haven't really seen anything quite like that in the MCU.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's been some magical things. Like if I can try to recall maybe stuff that happened in like Thor 2, maybe those are kind of the feelings I get. Like, oh, there could be like a dark elf, like that could do something like that. But
we get a hint at the villain doing some stuff. We get a hint at the Sentry, just a hair, like his thing. But like it was more the team kind of coming together, being, hey, does anybody fly or do energy blast? No, we only just punch and shoot. Well, shit, we got to figure this out.
Which is a great line. I mean, like Yelena has just become quickly the standout in the MCU for me. She's just so much fun. I love the charisma. It must be really fun just to write for her, because she's kind of like this aloof character that kind of just seems like, the life that she has now. It's just all like, oh yeah, I used to just be this widow and told what to do, and now I just kind of get to kind of hang out and do whatever I want. It's very like nonchalant, but she's also a badass, so she's never really threatened wherever she goes because she's so good at what she does. So right. I just love that idea. I mean, I feel like we're operating on a different level of information because you're our Sentry freakazoid. You know everything about the character. He's one of your favorite. You know all about his alter ego and identity. So we kind of already theorized here on the show very heavily that the Sentry probably is going to be the villain in some way. So I feel like this trailer is all but kind of confirming what we kind of already knew. You see like a shadowy version of him, which I assume has to be the Void in some way. So I guess now the question is like, well, how does he get to that point? How do they tie this into the MCU, which is more grounded than the comic books, right? Like, how do they bring him into this? We got to see Julie Louis-Dreyfus's character, the Avengers Tower under construction even. What's her role in all this? I will say, again, the biggest draw here is Sebastian Stan as Bucky. Yelena's great. I have no doubt in her, but to see Sebastian, he's growing his hair back out as Bucky, right? He's not doing the high and tight cut. He's growing it back out. He yanks the cars. He literally single-handedly, gets the other people, Yelena, Red Guardian, U.S. Agent, Ghost, Taskmaster. Like he wrangles them all up at some point. Like he's a return to badassery, Bucky, right? He's not the guy who was like in Falcon and Winter Soldier who was like literally pulling his punches. So like I'm glad we're back to him being able to flip a car with his arm, right, and just being the Bucky that we know from, I guess pre what Infinity War era kind of Bucky. With that, there are a lot of people online. I've seen a lot of articles here believing that some character will die because they're not featured in the trailer enough, Mike, and that is the Olga Kurylenko's Taskmaster. Now, I will say this, this as well as I do. Marvel edits their trailers pretty heavily. They edit things out, they'll hide things, they'll do shots that are different, different outfits, stuff like that. This character could very well be hidden in these shots, kind of along the way. Also, Taskmaster, I don't think talks, right? Do you remember? I don't remember that character ever talking either. So they might not be like, we need to have him here, but they don't have any lines along the way. Yeah, like if I had to play devil's advocate against that rumor, it would be out of the cast of characters that we have here on the screen, Taskmaster seems to be the most cloak and dagger out of all of them. Like literally, I think there's daggers. So I could see this character like dropping out of the story and maybe popping back up in the third act, kind of out of nowhere from a bush.
well, right, if you're gonna send someone off screen to, hey, go run Black Ops while we're doing this, send the person who doesn't talk, right? Like, it could literally be anyone in that suit. Like, they don't show their face very frequently. So I think everyone is technically, probably other than Bucky and Yelena, everyone's life is on the line in this movie. No one is guaranteed to make it out alive, but at the same time, boy, has Marvel tried to throw the story one way with the trailer, and really it's kind of gone the other way a little bit. And I think that's true with Brave New World. We'll talk about that full spoilers at the end of the show when we review it, but I think that's how it's going to go. Also, there was an international poster released with this that said asterisks. The Thunderbolts asterisk, and then at the bottom says asterisk, the Avengers aren't available, which could be a translation to like the title of the Avengers isn't able to be used, like because it's international, it might not be a 1-for-1 translation. So I think that would be interesting. It's like, they're called the Thunderbolts because they can't call themselves the Avengers, right? Like we can't, we're not officially titled Avengers. We had to come up with a new name, kind of thing.
I think that I'm really curious. I don't know if Marvel would do this to kind of take it the next level. I mean, we're all assuming that the asterisk at the end of Thunderbolts is a name change for the team at the end of the team. That's kind of the prevailing theory.
Yep.
And we have seen in real life scenarios where movies are retitled. You know, usually the essence of the movie name is still in there. They'll either drop a subtitle or maybe add a subtitle, but it would be kind of next level if after this movie is out for like 3 months and people have had their time to see it, and when it drops on like Disney Plus, they like change the name to like the Dark Avengers or the New Avengers or whatever. That would be kind of like fun. Like, well, I think that it would annoy one part of my brain of like, well, now you're just really screwing up the Google search history on this thing. Well, but it would be kind of like a fun like media.
They make it Thunderbolts with a subtitle New Avengers at that point, right? Like keep Thunderbolts, but then you add the New Avengers after the fact, because you know some movies have done. Well, speaking of Tom Cruise movies, was it Live, Die, Repeat? Was that one movie he did? Or like, you know, something. It was also it had like 3 different names. Remember the one where he
Edge of Tomorrow,
Live, Die, Repeat. Yeah. So they actually changed the name of that movie after it came out. I don't think it helped it, but like when you have something like this prominent that's available, I think that would be fun to be like, oh yeah, we've, you know, something has happened. They become the Dark Avengers, New Avengers, or whatever they call themselves. Maybe it's not even relevant. It's just like a kind of a fun thing at the end of the movie. That they do that. I agree, that would be really fun. But yeah, I'm excited to see this movie. Again, that's our next Marvel movie. Again, I'm trying to put my bias for the Sentry aside. I will say my wife leaned over. She'd not seen this trailer when we saw Captain America: Brave New World, and she was like, "Who's the villain in this movie?" I'm like, "Oh, I know.
I'll tell you in the car ride home in length and detail."
Yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna tell you, but know that the Sentry's in this. And she was like, oh my God, really? I'm like, yeah. She's like, I bet you're so excited. I'm like, you have no idea. You have no idea how excited I am for this. So, yeah. Every trailer that we talked about for Superman, Mission Impossible, How to Train Your Dragon, Thunderbolts, those links are in our show notes for anyone who's listening, wants to follow along or go back and reference those as well. Moving into some news here, some official news. Spider-Man 4, I think they don't have a name for it yet. Spider-Man 4 is officially filming the summer and fall 2025 this year in the UK, because there's a one of those competitions where you can I think donate, and then you can win a chance to be someone on set, meet Spider-Man 4 in person and be on set while they're filming this. You have to scroll down, but
an all expenses paid trip for 2 to London with $1,000 spending cash. You get to go on set, a selfie with Tom Holland. You get to take a picture. You get to get lunch with Tom. 2 tickets to any West End show of your choice. That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But I guess that gives us an idea of when the movie's filming.
Yep. It says all expenses paid trip for 2 to London, UK, summer/autumn 2025. So that summer kicks off, I guess, June 22nd proper is when that kind of kicks off through that. So there's a nice little 3, 4, 5 month window they're filming it. So they will be filming Spider-Man 4 in London as well. We do know that also. Oh, it's just going to go into our next topic here, Mike, because I don't have anything else for Spider-Man. Is that the Avengers Doomsday starts filming March/April in the UK officially. So they will be working on Doomsday with Tom Holland, and then he'll just essentially go to the studio next door to work on Spider-Man 4, it sounds like. And some actors are already there ahead of schedule. They're like, I think Chris Hemsworth was there, Sebastian Stan. A couple other people are, spending time in the UK getting situated and getting ready for this longer production shoot. So I can't wait to start getting some set photos, Mike, because I literally have no idea what this movie's about. I'm so in the dark on everything kind of going on.
It is really crazy. We've never really gone into an Avengers movie kind of quite like this before. It's funny because the Avengers have never really in the history of the MCU been like a team. It almost feels like they just briefly came together in the first movie, and like somebody just called them the Avengers, and then it seems like they had a lot of fun adventures before Ultron that we never got to see that kind of solidified them as a team, and then they just started breaking apart and fracturing, and they never really came back together. So we never really got to see their kind of like seasoned team, like just clocking in and out at the office, like doing like Avengers stuff. So I guess we've never really had like a clean entry into an Avengers movie, but it does feel weird going into Avengers Doomsday, like having no idea where we're at. We'll talk about Brave New World here at the end of the show, but we've seen from the trailer, without a spoiler, that Ross wants him to restart the Avengers. With speculation that Thunderbolts might be called the new Avengers. Like, what kind of team are we cooking up going into Doomsday?
And there's like a lot of legacy characters, right? You know, we haven't seen Captain Marvel since the Marvels, you know, Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, Wong, Doctor Strange. Like, there's a bunch of people who have been part of the Avengers and were part of those initial movies we've not caught up with in a hot minute. So how are they going to get here? How do they all arrive at the same place? So I'm excited to learn more. I don't want everything. Obviously, we don't want to be spoiled before we go into the movie. But knowing that they've got a script, they've got directors, you know, we're getting Robert Downey Jr. We've got one Fantastic Four introducing us to that team in a different universe before we kick off this movie. We got a lot of ingredients in the bowl we got to mix together to make this cake, and I really just want some cake to come out nice. So May 1st, 2026. So we're coming up, 14 months or so, 14 and a half months before it comes out. So they are filming that, and we'll keep you guys posted if we hear anything else. And I'm going to switch gears into the sequel to that, Avengers Secret Wars. Will film 1 year after Doomsday per Anthony Mackie. So they're going to make Doomsday this year, then Spider-Man 4, and then kick off after post-production filming Secret Wars while Doomsday is in theaters, which is kind of how they did, I think, Infinity War and Endgame, right? They didn't do them back-to-back. They did them.
That's what I was about to ask. I couldn't remember if it was a back-to-back situation.
Yeah. They said they couldn't make it work, or it was too hard to edit one movie and make one movie while they were doing two, so they did them separately. So I feel that's a smart move on their behalf, right? Rather than trying to make two movies in one go, they can make individual movies along the way.
Yeah. I just hope they don't give the Russo brothers like just full control, because they've quote unquote like proven themselves. Yeah. I've seen so many movies, so many directors just like go in a downtrend, and like nobody gives them any sort of creative pushback or like kind of creative like limits. They just let them run free. So I hope the relationship that existed during Infinity War and Endgame is still kind of solidified and presses forward.
Yeah. And obviously with Bob Iger's take quality over quantity, they know they got to hit it out of the park with these. They got to end this phase that was troubled with Bob Chapek stuff, with the King actors dismissal and problems kind of along the way. They've got to really kind of come together here next year and over the next 2 years, and kind of wrap it up and get a nice clean slate to introduce X-Men and all the other fun stuff. And again, I don't think the Russos only really operate on good scripts and good content that already exists. So hopefully the whichever writers, one of the writers, not both of them, coming back from Infinity War Endgame, tells that story right in the right direction with them. I shared this with you last time, Mike. Fantastic Four has an IMAX specific intro. So when you go see an IMAX movie, they do the countdown that says only in IMAX. It's like from 10 or 9 to 0. And it's always been like, IMAX. It's not, they've actually updated that to be Fantastic Four themed with the Fantastic Four theme song and everything. And I thought this was cool as hell. I didn't actually get to see this before my movie. We didn't see an IMAX, but I on this tweet that we have shared a link to, that where this video is, that someone filmed it in the theater. They call out that it's another sign that Marvel Studios know that Fantastic Four will be their big event hit for 2025. And I think I agree with that. You don't have IMAX make a brand new intro on a movie you're like half invested in, right? So
yeah, it's a really good move from IMAX. Like, I don't know if it was Marvel's idea or IMAX's idea, but like, hey, we should just sell off the sponsorship rights to this countdown. I bet they made a pretty penny off of it. So
yeah,
whoever came up with that idea, I hope they got a promotion.
And it's a free trailer for Fantastic Four without actually using the footage, but it's really cool. It feels 1960s. It feels authentic. They've obviously done animation, but it feels like it's real. Like tactical. And then at the end it says presented in Fantastic Vision or Fantastivision. So they've really kind of gone in on the branding here. I love it. It's just something little, not a heavy lift, not a huge thing that you'll see, but I recommend even check that out, because I just think it's one of the coolest little promos they've done so far. We're going to touch briefly on the Harry Potter series, Mike. Obviously, we are not the hugest Potterheads. We've said that for years. But knowing HBO is going all in on the TV series, doing 1 season per book, going forward 8 across 7 books, they have to start casting this. And the first casting that has come out of this so far is that John Lithgow, known for such as 30 Rock, not 30, was it? Oh my gosh, Third Rock from the Sun. From the 90s, obviously. The biggest show ever. Everyone's seen it now. Dexter, other Lord Farquaad in Shrek, is in the final talks to be cast as Dumbledore, which is interesting along the way. I have one interesting note on this. Not interesting. I have a note on this. John Lithgow, I believe, is he 79 already?
He was born. I'm googling
45.
it now for other reasons. 1945 in Rochester, New York.
He is 79 years old. If they're gonna do 7 years of this, he will be 86. While I do believe Hollywood age, people in Hollywood tend to live a little longer. They have access to doctors and stuff like that. Boy, that's a risk to see if someone pulls through for 7 more years when they're won't be filming this until they're 80.
Spoilers, technically, does not have to make it all 7 seasons.
Well, no, he has then they better film his flashbacks in the last book early on, because he will make an appearance in all 7 books. Yeah, whether they film it in order or not.
That is a good point. I think the biggest change here, not a Brit. That's why I Googled it. New York, American born and bred. I know Lithgow has a very specific kind of way of speech, and I would not be shocked if somebody told me he has a great British accent. He
does actually. He literally just was in a movie. I just pulled it up, and I'm going to pull up again. Oh my gosh, it's a British show where he's like a king or something. It's like one of those royalty movies. I'm going to find it, but he does have it, because I was like, it's like, no way. And then I looked up, and he does have he's been doing British accents lately, like in the past 2 years or so.
But I mean, that's a sign that now the casting kind of, I guess, unspoken rule for Harry Potter is broken. These actors can come from anywhere now, I guess, as long as they can imitate a decent English accent. So there's been so many rumors that I've seen pop up for the casting of this. I'm curious to see how many of them are actually going to be true.
This one is from Deadline. That's why all the other ones are fan casting. This is the only one I know that is actually being reported on in THR, Deadline, all the actual Variety, all the big ones. So, and obviously it doesn't matter. So, oh my gosh, was it Conclave he was in? No, The Crown. He is Winston Churchill in The Crown show. So, I guess
he's an honorary Brit then.
Yeah, but he won an Emmy for it. So obviously, you're not going to win an Emmy if you can't do an accent very well along the way. So, cool, awesome. I'm excited to watch these and see kind of how they change them up. I've been revisiting Hogwarts Legacy, Mike, because I've been playing it in VR through the VR mod I showed you. And let me tell you, if you don't have VR legs, that game is not going to help you. It does not help you one bit, but it is so cool to walk around Hogwarts, fly on a broom, just see that game from the first person point of view. So maybe they'll add that in to some of the console versions later. Mortal Kombat 2 is coming out later this year, and boy, I really hope they do a Mortal Kombat in this. But the first poster for this is actually not a Mortal Kombat movie. It's for a Johnny Cage movie in the movie called Uncaged Fury, which is from the studio that brought you Rebel Without a Cage. So Carl Urban is playing Johnny Cage in this. He will be portraying the character from the video games. I love Carl Urban. I think he's great for this role. I'm excited to see it, Mike. I have nothing else to go on at this point other than hopefully they do a tournament along the way. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm curious if this movie franchise has any juice left in it. Even though it just started, but I think it was like a pandemic movie, if I remember. It was one of HBO Max.
It was one of the Max ones that they put on Max that was also in theaters. So they literally were like, you can either watch it on Max or go to the theaters. So it didn't get any it never got any theatrical thing. But at the same time, my biggest point is there was no fucking tournament. You can't have a Mortal Kombat movie without a combat. But continue. Sorry.
Yeah, I literally never hear anybody anywhere talking about this movie, so I'm curious to see how it's going to go.
Yeah. I think, I mean, obviously it did well enough to get a sequel without having theatrical returns. Maybe some producer is like a really big Mortal Kombat fan and they've got like a real pull for it maybe, but I'm trying to think, has Carl Urban been in a bad movie or product lately? Like I can't think of anything he's been in. I'm like, oh, that was just okay. Like he tends to be in stuff that he kind of elevates it a little bit, right? Like along the way. So I was like, oh, he would, obviously he was in the Star Trek stuff. He was in Lord of the Rings. He's been in The Boys. He's been in Thor, not Love and Thunder, the one before that, Ragnarok. So, hopefully he's he's able to kind of elevate it. He's not picking bad stuff along the way. So, but yeah, check that poster out. Obviously, it's not actually Mortal Kombat 2, but I got to change this. They said coming soon with a K because obviously it's Mortal Kombat. So coming soon release date from Ed Boon. Surprise announcement, Mike. We never talked about this, I feel, but Secret Level Season 2 is confirmed by Amazon and Blur Studios. Didn't care for the first season. I think they were just little fluff pieces that didn't do much. Like, well, maybe we did talk about it, right? Because you said like Pac-Man was like, yeah, it's good, but like not Pac-Man, Mega Man. Like it was like, oh, this is fun, but it never really got to where it was good. Like it's just like a little tease for something better.
Honestly, like I have a strong feeling that like the Mega Man short is already done, and I feel like they chopped it into like 3 parts, and then just hoping that they get 3 seasons out of it, because it really does feel like, oh, they just paused it. We're like on a commercial break for the rest of it.
And Pac-Man was weird enough to be, it was like, hey, we have a weird idea, or like someone's coming down off like some mushrooms or something. Like, well, what if Pac-Man was controlling a person who was hungry? And I'm like, I really didn't care for it. It was kind of weird, and I feel like nobody really knows the properties they're working with in there. But, I could probably finish them all up here, like an hour someday. Probably go through. There was talks that there was like, Blur Studios is trying to get other properties, like trying to get Halo and the Doom guy in a short. So maybe the popularity, the people talking about the first season could get other properties involved. Like, not the weird, what was it, PlayStation, where like is a mailman delivering mail, and I had all the other Sony characters. I'm like, what if we got a real God of War short, Mike? With like Kratos, rather than he's just helping a mail guy deliver mail. So would love to see that. But season 2 is confirmed by Amazon Blur Studios. Obviously, Blur Studios known for working on Deadpool and was it Love, Death and Robots? Love, Sex and Robots? Whatever it is.
I believe it's Death.
Death. Okay, whatever. So yeah, moving on. Twisted Metal Season 2 dropped a trailer. This trailer was shown before Captain America: Brave New World for me, Mike. I actually saw this in theaters as well. I need to link it in here. I sent it to you, right? The actual trailer. And what I will say, well, I don't care for like the first one kind of just being like, oh, it's a cross-country trip with Anthony Mackie and he's driving his cars and there's a clown chasing him. Like, that's not Twisted Metal. We talked about that to death when it first came out. This second season is actually the Twisted Metal games. They have Calypso, the guy who grants you a wish if you win Twisted Metal. We get to see Spectre, the guy who sucks spirits out of bodies. The return of, I can't think of his name. He puts the arms in the wheel, like the Twisted Metal Axel. Like, these are the characters from the games, Mike, and they have to survive a tournament. This is exactly what I want, and I'm glad that season 2 isn't continuing the story of a cross-country trip with Anthony Mackie, but it's actually doing the Twisted Metal games. Like, I will give him credit for that.
I appreciate the hustle and the flex of announcing this in front of Anthony Mackie's big Marvel movie. NBC, Peacock, Universal, they're timing things appropriately. They understand that this is their time to strike. But I guess it was successful enough for them to make a second season.
I had a lot of people were like, yeah, I liked it. But that was it. They were like, you should watch it. I liked it, but there was nothing else. But I'm like, I would just like Mortal Kombat, I will beat it to death. If it's not following the actual game story, then it's not very interesting. There's one scene in this where the clown dude, his hair catches on fire, like in the game as well. I was like, okay, so it looks like they're leaning into some goofier stuff to kind of to play with those characters. So I'm on board. Thankfully, I'll give them the benefit of, I'll watch the first season to watch the second season, because they actually did something what looks to be right. I'm not going to say it's good. I'm not going to say it's identical to what it should be, but it looks like they actually listened when they made a second season, Mike. So I will give them a little bit of a boost for that, kind of along the way. Let's see here. Last bit of news, Mike. It's our Captain America Brave New World review. We've got to see it. I saw it Thursday in theaters. You saw it Saturday, I believe. You watched it yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So the Captain America Brave New World, it is now out in theaters. I linked something here. What did I link to? I linked the Twisted Metal trailer in the wrong place. That's what I did. So that's why I was like, I'm pretty sure I put it in there. So the movie is released in theaters. It is the fourth biggest President's Day opening, behind Black Panther, Deadpool, and Quantumania so far. And it is the 35th consecutive Marvel movie to open at number 1 on this weekend. Do you know how many Marvel movies there are, Mike?
A lot.
35. 35 if you wanted to do the count there. So this is our 35th Marvel movie, 35th number 1. It's looking to be around 90 million US. It's exceeding in other countries. So worldwide it's like 200 and something, I think, maybe 200 plus million. So it looks like this movie is landing as a success to audiences this opening weekend. And we're here to talk about it. So we can do spoiler free first. What do you think about that? You think we start with spoiler free to kick it off?
Yeah, and then I would love to just move into a conversation about the film. I feel like there's so much to talk about, and it feels like it's been 2 years since I've seen the movie, and all I want to do is talk about it with you.
Yeah. Well, and this has been one of those, the most behind the scenes tracked movie I think that we've ever had out of Marvel, right? So like we have more conversation about the movie, the different versions, the reshoots, everything kind of more than the actual movie itself probably with that. But Mike, I'll let you kick it off. You since you had the freshest viewpoint on this, go ahead and let me know what you think.
Yeah, it's really hard to take in this movie without talking about, the production of the film overall. But I think that's just going to be our point of view for the film. We love talking about, insider baseball and Hollywood stuff when it comes to these films. So, if you want like an unbiased, super coned in review of the film, I would say look elsewhere. But I just love everything about Hollywood and from top to bottom. So it definitely informs me when I go in to watch these movies. This film was the first Marvel film out of all of these 35 where it was not just standard run-of-the-mill reshoots. Like, we know almost for a fact that they had to go in and fix things. It went so bad the first time around, which we've never heard before when it comes to these movies. Like, we know Kevin Feige is a bit of as a little a tinkerer there in the editing room. I've heard stories before where he's saved movies or found them in the edit, but that was all before these big reshoots of the film. So when I went into the movie, obviously I'm looking for seams, I'm looking for cuts, I'm looking for added in characters, removed characters. So I feel like I didn't get to watch the movie in this pristine environment that maybe some casual viewers got to. We always talk about, the mom test, the parent test with these movies of how do people experience a Marvel movie when they're not in it like we are. So all that being said, I feel like this movie is just kind of right down the middle for me. There's not enough in here to make me hate it and rage against the machine. But there's not enough in here to make me go oh, wow, yeah, Marvel has definitely turned the ship around. I know the popular thing to do online is scream, Marvel's dead, Marvel's back, Marvel's dead, Marvel's back. I'm not one of those people, but I don't think there's enough in this movie to make that type of person make a declaration, right? So this really is going to be a movie where you find your opinion of it in the spoiler conversation, because I just want to talk about different parts of it. So I guess at the end of the day, would I recommend it? I mean, I don't know if I'd say go out of your way to see this. There is a lot of exposition in this movie that has to catch you up on things that had happened, like, I think literally decades ago now in that very first Hulk movie. So, I mean, if you're not somebody that's following this super long thread, I don't really know how you kind of get the multiplying factor of a cinematic universe out of it, especially with the unfortunate circumstance of having to recast General Ross. So if you're just a total casual viewer that's just trying to go on instinctual visual memory, you can't even really be helped here, unfortunately. So, I mean, and we have been pretty public on the show of how, like, I don't know, we just don't jive with Anthony Mackie. I don't know what it is. You know, I loved him as the Falcon. I thought he was kind of like a great sidekick. And I know his character is elevated, you know, in the narrative of the comic books, and I have no problem with that direction. But I don't know, just the performance, I feel like I can't quite see him as a leading man. And even like the one episode of Twisted Metal, like we were just talking about that show I watched, I was like, I still am not seeing it there. So we'll dive into it more, but I think this is if I remember correctly, I just saw this was the first Marvel movie ever to get a B- cinema score. This is the lowest cinema score that Marvel has ever received. And if you're not familiar with the scoring, basically it's just what the kids would say, a vibe check. They poll people as they come out of their screening and they ask them to grade the movie. What did you think? You know, and usually I like cinema score. I like this idea of just kind of getting people's initial reaction. You know, I think it tells you a lot about, is this what the audience expected? Is this what they were looking for? Did something totally throw them off? And like a B-, I mean, a decent grade in class, but for a Marvel movie that has never scored that low before, you know, it's a great sign that there's not a lot in here that's super impactful. So, Chris, I'm curious, what do you think before we jump into spoilers?
Less eloquently put, it's fine. Like, I you know, like I have nothing, like, I'm like, oh, this was awful. I have nothing to really, like, knock it down a bit. I will have nothing to really say, hey, this was elevated it to a new level a bit. I will probably say, I don't. The problem with CinemaScore, the problem with Rotten Tomatoes is they're never really updated later, right? They're always done at the first. This movie is way better than Thor: Love and Thunder, and Thor: Love and Thunder had a higher CinemaScore out of the theater, right? Like that movie, where the hammers are jealous with each other. Mike, does that hold up? Like that doesn't hold up to this, right? Where with you know, fighting around the world guy himself, Russell Crowe was, you know, a fat, you know, pompous, what the Greek Zeus guy. Like that movie, not that good. This movie, this is a competent movie. I've said a couple things and you alluded to them. For those who may not realize this is not a spoiler. This is essentially the Incredible Hulk 2. Like, do not let the Captain America title fool you. It may be led by Anthony Mackie as Captain America, but this is not really a sequel to any Captain America movie, Mike. Like, right? Like, it doesn't feel like we're getting some remnants of the Falcon and Winter Soldier, but like not a lot. We're not getting anything out of any other Captain America movie. Maybe Civil War, simply because Mr. Ross is in here again. But like, it is Incredible Hulk 2 as a movie, and I would say, and I told you this is great value Winter Soldier at the end of the day. Literally, you have Winter Soldier was Captain America and Natasha, Black Widow, and Bucky, right? Your main like three versus, you know, the Hydra thing. And this one you have Anthony Mackie's Captain America, his little buddy Torres, who is now the Falcon, and then another female lead who is also a Black Widow. That but we've never really spent time with these people in these roles. They're just kind of thrust into them in front of us during the movie. So it is essentially a very similar plot to the Winter Soldier, but hey, we've already done that, and these are characters that didn't really have any build up into that. So it's a very interesting take being the first outing for Anthony Mackie's Captain America. I probably would have given him a more personal villain rather than General Ross. Like, yes, they have a little bit of a history, but he was after Steve Rogers more than he was after, hey, get the Falcon, right? So why do we not have a more personal villain in this? I'm not sure along the way. I will disagree with you. I don't like Anthony Mackie in anything else, but I think he does a really good Sam Wilson. The vulnerable moments and when he's serious in this movie, I'm like, I get it. I see this. He's done that great. He's carrying over his Sam Wilson performance from 11 years ago in The Winter Soldier, and he's carried that forward through Marvel. I think he does great. Anything else, he's too smug, and I just want to hit him in the face. I don't know what it is. So, but I think he does a great job here. Harrison Ford as President Ross in this. Harrison Ford he's a great actor, right? Like, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, anything he's done. He's been the president in Air Force One and other movies. He is a great actor. He knows what he's there for. He does a great job. I don't have any real issues with any of the casting in this. The story is kind of threaded along here. We've always said, why are they showing the Red Hulk as the why are they showing that? That should be the big reveal in the film. Well, the reveal is there's actually another villain behind everything, which we'll talk about in spoilers. So that revelation comes in the movie pretty early on. But overall, I think a cinema score being the lowest, I don't believe that for one goddamn second, Mike. Like that's maybe what came out of here, but like that is not a true representation of some of the awful Chapek era Marvel films we got, right? Like that we sat through Thor: Love and Thunder. We sat through. I don't even think the Marvels is that bad, but like that this is more memorable than the Marvels at the end of the day, and even maybe Quantumania. I think yes, cinema score maybe B-, but I think this is way more of a competent film along the way. There's no real big swings taken, but that's okay because Marvel's been taking some real big swings lately, and it's okay to rein that back in, right? We don't need the multiverse in every movie. We don't need, really a world-ending event. This wasn't really even a world-ending event, kind of along the way. But I love to talk about in spoilers, kind of like how some of these things are, what the story points that I don't want to talk about just because they are spoilers, but like, there's some really good seeds laid. There's some other stuff it looks like they've probably pulled back on, but overall, it's a fine film. I think this sits right in the middle overall. It's pushed down some other movies, like I talked about, Quantumania, the Marvels, Thor: Love and Thunder. Those are pushed down farther, but this sits very solidly in a competent film that knows its the limits of its actors and the characters it's bringing to the table, while not really pushing the needle in the MCU in any direction. Just kind of leaving it where it was when it came in.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I think now is a great time, like you were saying. Jump into spoilers. Let's talk about it. The number one thing that I've just been wanting to talk about forever is just my theory that they relied heavily on Red Hulk to get butts in seats and drive up box office dollars. Every plotting point about the Red Hulk in this movie is supposed to be like a secret reveal. Yeah. I mean, if you're familiar, with the characters, I suppose you could see it coming sooner than others, but you don't get the battle until the third act. So obviously it's supposed to be met for the end of the film. And I think they kind of saw the writing on the wall. If they had to do reshoots, it's because part of the film was not working. It was not jiving with test audiences. So we got to find a way to juice it up. My assumption would be that a lot of people liked the Red Hulk battle, so they're like, okay, we got to do a little bit of damage control here. Even the most amount of money and the most amount of reshoots, we can never make a brand new movie, so we need to take what's working, put it out in front, and get people excited for this movie. Because I was under the assumption watching these trailers that the Red Hulk is going to be a bigger part of the movie, right? Even if you look at the posters, because the Red Hulk exists entirely at the White House, and then he makes a couple big jumps and he ends up in like a Cherry Blossom Peninsula. Those are the two locations the Red Hulk exists in the movie. Yeah. And then all of a sudden on these posters, like you see him in like a downtown area amongst like skyscrapers, like in the streets and stuff. it kind of makes you think that there's going to be more battles or it's going to take place over more locations. That's not really what we get. So I think this was like a marketing strategy of like, we need to boost up the Red Hulk. And even though that's probably the right move to do, I feel like it hurts the narrative, right? It was like never a secret what these pills were doing, right? It's never a secret. Why is General Ross getting mad in the hallway, like holding onto his like chest and like, we all knew what it was going to culminate to. So that was disappointing to me.
I don't think we needed him any earlier, though. I think the plot along the way to get there, the MacGuffin is adamantium, right? And really that whole point that exists at this point, which I'd hoped adamantium would have been bigger, was to solve not a world war, but like the countries fighting over the island of the Celestial along the way, right? For me, the Red Hulk I'm not as upset about that. I think that's fine. The real secret was the leader, Tim Blake Nelson's character in the background controlling everything. No, again, if you didn't follow the movie and didn't know anything, nobody knew who that guy was coming. My wife was like, that's a surprise. What do I know him from? I'm like, you know him from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And she's like, oh yeah, because they really make it. They really gave him like a zombie look. I loved his glow, like reflective green eyes a little bit. Like I thought that was a really cool effect for him. But like he was, I guess, the real quote unquote villain. But like he never got a come up other than being put in a cell. The next cell block over from the Red Hulk at the end. I think his plot points were probably more disappointing, I think, than Harrison Ford's. The reveal, obviously, you get a Red Hulk, get Harrison Ford in there. You're using it for a big thing. I think that's marketing. Not really that upset, but like the lack of adamantium doing anything. I thought my theory, Mike, was that Sam was going to get an adamantium suit to fight the Red Hulk. Right? That was going to be like maybe we're seeing Red Hulk end of Act 2 with the cherry blossoms. Act 3 would have been the adamantium, but like, boy, that stuff falls off the movie as fast as it showed up.
Or like an adamantium like tool or weapon, right? We see this canister like recovered at the beginning of the movie, and then we never really see it again. So I thought maybe they were going to bring in a cameo of maybe like a super smart character in the MCU that was going to like do Sam a favor and like refine it into something like a bullet or a dagger, just something, anything. But like really adamantium is in the movie, like in name only.
Yeah.
I love the concept of where adamantium is coming from, how it's being introduced. They show like a little 3D render of like, oh, there's labs inside of the Celestial where the Japanese are working on it. I wanted a set piece there.
Yeah.
Like I wanted like Falcon and or I guess Torres is Falcon. I wanted Sam and Torres to like fly into the Celestial, and even if they're not doing like a whole thing, maybe there's just like a couple punches and kicks in there, and then they fly back out.
I don't need them to fight them. I just need them to work with that. Like, what if the other countries are like, okay, because they all seem to trust Captain America, right? That was the point. They all like Captain America. They're like, Sam, you're a good person. They all work with him to give him the adamantium. Like, maybe it was even a new shield, Mike. That was an adamantium shield to help take down the Hulk. And that's his like secret weapon, because he's been working with them because they all like him. They didn't really kind of lean on that a little bit. They just like, oh, the president as Harrison Ford will get everyone together, and he never did, but they all were like, yeah, we like Captain America, he's a good guy, with that. So there's some missed opportunities, but like I think from what we knew of the first version, we knew like there was that wrestler and the Rosa Salazar with the pink hair as Diamondback, who even got a toy at McDonald's last year. Like, they took out several other villain subplots, and I think that was a good move. I think this movie, if they'd added too many extra powered villains that were like snake-powered villains, this movie would have been much worse than the other. Like, not in a good direction. Like, this would have gone downhill pretty quick. What do you think about those? And we saw set photos of them on an airport fighting them as well. So like, they took out like whole action scenes. They probably even CGI'd a lot of that before they reshot this stuff in late 23. So
yeah, I think it is pretty.
Less is more, is what I'm saying. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, if we had to like make guesses, I mean, obviously there's some things we don't have to guess about. We know Carlos Esposito was added during the reshoot, so presumably anytime we see him, it's got to be a reshoot, right? So
Yeah.
almost probably the entire opening of the movie, all revolves around him. I didn't see any airports, anywhere at the beginning of the movie, so I got to imagine that's all reshoots. He pops up again on his own in the middle of the movie. That's got to be a reshoot. And also, like, I text you after I got out of the movie, and I was like, oh, it's got to be a reshoot because it's like a junkyard somewhere outside of Atlanta. Like you watch enough, movies and TV shows, you start to get a feel of what Georgia looks like outside of Atlanta, and like this is Atlanta through and through. It's exactly what it looks like. So we know that changed. So it does make you wonder, like, we'll never know, but it makes you wonder what was there before.
Right.
Presumably they made it better. They spent a lot of money to make it better. The budget on this one is pretty high up there.
I will say that second part where what his name's Sidewinder, right? Carlos Esposito shows up. I had a goddamn jump scare in the movie theater, Mike, because like Sam's just driving around the corner and then he just like opens fucking fire on him. Like I was like, oh my god, like it scared the hell out of me. But boy, does that feel like the Bucky scene on Winter Soldier where he attacks Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah,
like in the car. I'm like, I see the shades of Winter Soldier here that you were trying to go for. But again, great value brand. Like we have Winter Soldier at home.
And this is another problem. They did not have to make this movie a political thriller. They start with a blank slate when they start writing these movies, right? They did not have to do that. They didn't even have to at the very beginning of the movie. They do a kind of a unique Marvel Studios logo at the very beginning. It like fills up the entire frame. It kind of feels very like spy thrillery, noir, like type and vibe. They 100% were leaning into this kind of being a Winter Soldier successor, but it just does not live up to it in any way. And I kind of just wish they could have just gone in a totally different direction instead of just trying to do Winter Soldier Part 2.
I think Winter Soldier wasn't the original idea. I think this movie is still an Incredible Hulk 2 with trying to also resolve the Eternal Celestial, right? Like the big question everyone has, what is this Celestial doing? Why is it there? What are they doing with it? Well, here's the answer. It's adamantium. Great. Love that. Awesome seed planted to develop later in X-Men, Wolverine, stuff like that. But like the leader and General Ross and Betty Ross, this like 90% of this movie is Incredible Hulk 2. Just dealing with the fallout of Harlem, the Incredible Hulk 2, the Abomination, the Hulk, all that stuff. They even have a flashback scene of him getting angry with a mustache, right? Harrison Ford getting angry with a mustache. And I'm like, oh, this whole movie is Incredible Hulk 2 coded. They probably were trying to do an Incredible Hulk 2. Something happened. Okay, well, why don't we add in Captain America? You know, we can merge. It feels like two ideas merged together. And then at the second iteration, not the first version, but the second version feels like Winter Soldier. Because I think if you would have had the weird snake people, powered people, it would have not have been a political thriller. You would never have gotten that vibe at all. And that came in the second edit, like, hey, maybe we can lean into that a little bit more here, edit some things around, reshoot some stuff, make it more, questionable what's going on with everything. So I think that it feels to me like it came later, but like this really truly is a Hulk 2. Like I can't say that enough, because all the two villains are Hulk villains that have no connection to Anthony Mackie or Captain America other than the super soldier serum. Asterisk, Mike, one of my favorite scenes, Bucky shows up, since we're in spoilers, shows up, has a little heart-to-heart with Sam, playing off their Falcon Winter Soldier vibes, their Civil War partnership, had a really good speech, and I believe he's leaving to go do something in Thunderbolts, based on the trailer, the outfit he was wearing in the something we saw in the Thunderbolts trailer. So I like that part. I actually had a good time seeing those guys together have a heart-to-heart.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to see Bucky show up, but I obviously I love the Winter Soldier, the character, I love Sebastian Stan. Anytime he's there, he's going to make the scene better, in my opinion. And it makes sense because the last time we saw these two, they were in the Winter Soldier together. It would be weird if he wasn't in the movie.
Yeah.
Right? But if I kind of had to wrap things up, maybe with like a thing I like and thing that I didn't like, to kind of even it out, to make this movie just kind of middle of the road. I love Isaiah Bradley's character. He's the single most like engaging thing happening in the movie, and really the only thing driving Sam throughout the movie. Like, he's motivated to save his friend and to get him out of there. But just at the same time, I wish they could have done more with him. It's almost my exact same issue I had with The Winter Soldier, where they're doing everything like but trying to make a point or have like a narrative or have a point of view, right? Like, for a political thriller movie, like, what do we walk away with? Like, they just kind of basically reset the status quo at the end of the movie. There's I feel like there's not a whole lot that we really did in the movie besides like watch some fun action scenes, like watching the Falcon like ride like a torpedo or a missile or whatever it was in the ocean. Like, that was really cool. I liked that. It looked neat and fun. But I still have a lot of issues stemming from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like, I get this thing that they're trying to do. They did it in Iron Man 3 of a man's more than his superpower and his suit or whatever. But it's just like, it's so hard for me to believe this man throwing the shield the way he does. Like, it's inhuman. It's unhuman. A normal person could never do that under almost any circumstances, but you can believe Steve Rogers can do it because he has these heightened abilities. So, and I believe Sam could fight somebody strong because he has a Wakandan suit, but there's just some things that he does that is just unbelievable to me that I feel like is kind of breaking the established rules of the MCU. And that's something that I'll probably just never be able to get over until maybe they just beat me over the head with it and just get to the point where like I'm never going to have my way. So I guess I said I was trying to say something nice, and I guess it was cool when he rode the missile. But yeah, it just goes back to that at the top what we said of just I mean, I feel like I was not affected in any big way in any direction for this movie.
This movie set some seeds going forward. It brought some players from literally 2008 back into the fold. I thought we saw trailer spots where Betty Ross was at a funeral for what we thought was General Ross. But they didn't kill him off. So maybe an original plan was to kill off Harrison Ford at the end of this movie rather than talk him down into human. We don't know. Again, we will never know the true iterations here, and they'll never be released. But I do think there is a reason they left Harrison Ford alive, and will continually be the Red Hulk. Whether that's World War Hulks, if they actually get to it or not, I'm not sure. But they did set some seeds going forward. Adamantium, put these people, there. But at the same time, like you said, like the needle wasn't moved either way, was it? Good or bad? It just kind of sat in the middle, and we'll see if Thunderbolts does anything different. But this is, I've always put an asterisk beside this. This is the last Chapek era project, right? Movie. Out of that, they tried to film it or fix it without restarting over, which will always be a challenge. We may see some of that, how they handle that in television next month with Daredevil, right? Since that movie or series was in production, it didn't do everything and then reshoot. It had a little bit done and then retooled it. So we may see some of that in there. But this will be the last time we can say this is a Chapek stained project, and we don't have that excuse anymore going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So excited to see where Thunderbolts lands with this, but like at the same time, like, boy, I really wish Sam had a personal villain to fight. Like, don't you? Like, that's my hope. Like, he didn't really have anyone personally to fight him. He just happened to have that his own Black Widow with Ruth Batsaroff and his own Falcon with Torres. So
it's just a shame. The movie to me just feels like, oh, I'm glad we got it out of the way because I'm looking forward to Thunderbolts a lot more. So I'm glad we got it out of the way.
Again, I don't feel cringy. There was no cringe moments watching this movie. Like I always think back to Thor: Love and Thunder, where the hammers are jealous of each other, and I'm like, oh, cringe. God damn, why does that hurt so much to watch that? In hindsight, so this movie wasn't cringe, and I'll give it that credit. That's the show, Mike. If people want to know what you're up to, what you're doing, where can they find you, buddy?
Well, they can read by webcomics at liferewardsrisk.com and pickledcomics.com. Chris, if people want to catch you, where are you?
Find me on Instagram, Valdan87, VALDAN, or video games of the same name. If people want to know more about the show, where they can come back every week where they can listen to all the shows we've been doing for the past 10 plus years, 500 plus episodes, where we can get all them goodies at.
Oh, all you have to do is visit superheroslate.com. That's the best place to find our show notes, to get our awesome upcoming release calendar. If you want to see what's coming up in the world of superhero movies and TV shows, we got a nice, super helpful calendar over there. We're on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else they're pumping podcasts into. We're there. You can subscribe, listen to us. We love reviews. If you want to drop a review for the podcast, that's helpful. I feel like that's a thing people don't do that much anymore. I feel like it's just not part of the culture of podcasting. Unfortunately, no one really goes out of their way to review podcasts anymore. But if you can, that'd be super helpful. We'd love that. You can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love our super fans. If you want to be a super fan of this show, it's so easy to do. All you have to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we'll be here every week, folks.
That's right. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.